So here's how I got involved politically in Los Angeles is I was really sick of walking by homelessness every day and, doing the avert your eyes thing. I'm not going to look, right? I'm like, this is horrible. I don't like doing this. I would walk by the same woman every day on the same bench and like not make eye contact with her. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I heard from a friend of mine who had a wonderful podcast called LA Podcast about LA local politics. This guy, Hayes Davenport. You know Hayes?
Hollywood Handbook.
Yes, Hollywood Handbook. Yeah. So he had a podcast called LA Podcast, and he talked about...
Dude, he's... Sorry to cut you off, but wasn't he like a TV writer, and then he fucking left to work for Nithya?
Exactly.
That shit's fucking cool.
He was a TV writer. He actually quit a show-running job to go do homelessness outreach and local politics full-time. And he inspired a lot of people, including myself. And he said on an episode of the podcast, hey, we have a group. It's called SELA. It's a neighborhood homelessness coalition. And we go out every weekend with water and snacks, and we talk to the unhoused folks in our neighborhood, and we try to, if we can, connect them with services and things like that. But really, it's just like neighbors talking to neighbors. I was like, I want to do that. I started doing it. It was a little bit nerve-wracking, but after a couple times, I was like, oh, I know how to do this. Like, once you realize you actually can talk to someone suffering in your neighborhood, and you go like, hey, how's it going? You want a bottle of water? It's like transformative. Then the people I met through that group were people who cared about homelessness. And a bunch of those people were politically active. They started asking me, hey, there's a neighborhood council meeting. It'd be really helpful if you would come and, speak to your experience, because there's a lot of neighbors riled up about homelessness and they need to hear it from someone who's done engagement at these encampments. I said, yeah, sure. And then one of the founders of that group was a woman named Nithya Raman, who's eventually ran for city council here in LA. And I joined her. I volunteered for her campaign because I knew her personally, and I knew what values she stood for in terms of homelessness, which were, rather than sweeping people from one corner to another, she's about like going to people one at a time, saying, what kind of housing are you looking for, and using the power of the council office to try to find that person housing. And now that she's been elected, she's had great success doing that throughout her district. And like a lot of encampments are now gone, not because she's swept them away, but because she's like, those people literally are in permanent housing now. But so because I knew her, I was like, I know what values she has, and I campaigned really hard for her. And now she's fucking in office. Like, she won, and because she won, there's 3 more candidates, or 4, depending on how you want to count them, are running for city council this year. One has already won. Looks like 2 more are going to win. Ugo Soto Martinez. Eunesis already won in CD1. Ugo Soto Martinez is running in CD13. There's also Aaron Darling in CD11 on the west side. And there's a couple other candidates.
Which is a big deal in LA, because the LA City Council has a lot of power here.
Yes. In LA, we only have 15 council members for a city of, whatever, millions and millions. So each of them represents like 250,000 people. And so they're basically mini mayors. And taken together, they're more powerful than the mayor. And, the whole city has been run by people like, have been in the headlines on this tape that if you've followed the news at all over the last couple of weeks, these politicians were caught on tape saying horribly racist things, and also scheming to redistrict, basically gerrymander the city in order to exclude black people's voices from being able to elect their preferred representatives, like saying, oh, let's give the airport to this guy, and no, I want to make sure I have this because that'll help me get reelected. So that's the old way of doing politics in LA, and we used to have 15 people who ran the city that way. After Nithya won, we had 14. After this election, maybe we're going to have 12. Like the numbers are going down. We're building allies, and pretty soon we might be able to take over the city with people who actually give a shit and really want to make the city work well. And that won't be, I'm not gonna say that's gonna be a utopia, right? There's still gonna be problems at that point, but it really can make a difference. And the way it started was me joining the whole movement didn't start from me joining the homelessness group.
No,
but my involvement,
take it.
My involvement came from me saying, I care about homelessness. Oh, let me join a group, right?
I will say the Los Angeles comedy scene has been a pretty cool way to get involved.
The entire comedy scene has been turned on politically by Nithya's election and by people like Hayes. Most comics I speak to now know who Ugo Soto Martinez is, whereas 5 years ago, they wouldn't know the name of a single city council person, let alone a candidate.
I don't know if have you ever ended up at Little Secret, those comedy shows? The last one I went to was a fundraiser for Ugo.
Yeah.
But it's great. I mean, Sarah Silverman is there trying to raise money, and you're like, I don't remember this being like this just a few short years ago.
Yeah, and that's the power of people paying attention at all. Like
Right.
that's what you're seeing, is that like the public is now, especially after these racist tapes were leaked, the public is paying attention to the city government in a way that they weren't before. And like, shit is materially gonna change as a result. Like shit, like I live in Nithya's district, and shit is different in the district now because she's been elected. But it can start with you joining something. So what I tell people again is that a union, is that a church, is there a local, a lot of people get started by joining a local chapter of a group like the DSA, or if you don't say, if you don't want to say I'm a socialist, like there's the League of Women Voters, right, is one of these groups that has a chapter in almost every city in the country, and you can start going to the meetings, you know?
And have you seen those tweets going around of, I think some big article came about, you know, American loneliness and how people have fewer and fewer friends.
Oh yeah, I just saw that.
But this is
it's like 1 out of 10 people have no friends.
It was so depressing. And that's the thing. If you feel lonely, I mean, I go to meetings like this, and it not only makes you feel less hopeless, but you're just talking to people who are like-minded, and it's a great way to meet people. And if you're maybe a little nervous, I'm sure if you live in a medium to large city, there are tons of things like that are here where it could just be like a comedy thing that's raising money. It could be concerts. So get out there and meet people and fucking help change the world.